Hi, I'm Madison Wallace, and I'm an Ambassador Girl Scout in Girl Scout Troop 3003. I am working on my Gold Award project, which is the highest award a Girl Scout can receive. For my Gold Award project, I am making fidget blankets for people who have Alzheimer's and dementia. And in this video, I will be teaching you guys on how to make your own fidget blanket. You can either give these to a memory care unit in your area or a friend or loved one who has Alzheimer's and dementia or has a loved one with Alzheimer's and dementia. First step you need to do is cut 2 pieces of fabric the same size. We are aiming for the size 24 by 24. You can go a little bit bigger, as much as 26 by 26 and as low as 20 by 20, but no higher or no lower than those numbers. But mostly 24 by 24 works the greatest. So then you're going to want to take 5 to 6 fidgets and spread them out evenly on your fabric. You will choose one piece of fabric. This is your top fabric. The other piece, the second piece that you are using as your back fabric, will go to the side until the end. So what you're going to want to do once you take the fidgets and put them down, which you can be creative however you want, you just got to make sure when you sew them that they're sewn on strong, which I will explain later in the video, but you're going to want to pin all your fidgets down before sewing. Okay, so now we have everything pinned down, secured, and ready to be sewn on by the sewing machine, which will be your next step. Some of the items like this and bells and such will have to be hand sewn because this obviously can't go through the sewing machine, but we have had many cases where this has dented the needle of the sewing machine, so we recommend sewing this on by hand. These you can get away with the sewing machine, and this stuff as well. And some of the kits involve mesh bags, which are also part of the sewing machine stuff, but yes. Okay, so now that we have all of our fidgets pinned onto the fidget blanket, we are going to use the sewing machine, which I will explain how to use if you do not already know how to use one. And certain things have to be hand sewn on, as I explained in the last recording, like these flowers, which we will show you how to hand sew those on. And there may be some other things that come into the kit that will bend the sewing needle on the sewing machine, because we have had that occurred before. Okay, so with the sewing machine, everybody's sewing machine is different. This is the one that I am using for this video. So I'll explain some basic parts that are most of the time the same on every sewing machine. Most of the time, though. Your sewing machine may be different, and if you are using a sewing machine for the first time, ask the owner or whoever you're making the blankets with how to use the sewing machine so you don't hurt yourself or the machine. So first, we have our basic thing. We have the sewing needle, which is obviously for sewing. We have the thread that's coming right out here on the sewing needle. Have your bobbin here. Then you have this, which you will push down, and that's where you can begin sewing when you have a piece of material on the thing. And then when it's up, you're not supposed to sew. Then we have this, which is our thread. And this is where you twist the thread up and down to go into the sewing needle. Again, everyone's is different. Most sewing machines have a little back pedaler, so after you're done sewing, you will go backwards and then sew back over it. Now, not every sewing machine has their back pedal in this location. Some are in various different ones, but this is where the machine I am using is located. And then you have this, which twists the needle down and up, which is most commonly used if you're sewing and you finish sewing and the needle's still in the fabric and you need to get it out. Or if you need to thread your bobbin, which again, the owner of the sewing machine that you are using will explain how to do that for their sewing machine, because every sewing machine is different unless you have this exact model majority of the time. So that is, oh yes, and then you have your pedal, which is where you will put your foot down on to make the sewing machine go while you are sewing. Okay, so as we start sewing the first piece, which is where the bell will go, you're going to want to slowly put your hand on the top part of the fabric and on the bottom part and push it towards the other side of the sewing machine very carefully, keeping your hand away from the sewing needle, as is demonstrated in this recording. So as we get towards the end, we are going to want to pull away from the sewing machine with the fabric and cut the string and tie the string once you are done cutting it. Now, some sewing machines have automatic cutters if it's a more fancier sewing machine. The high-tech ones do, but this one you have to manually cut the thread once you are done sewing. Now, with the string, you want to sew over it multiple times by going over it once, cutting this thread, and then going over it again till you are able to yank on the string without it coming off. Because if the fidgets come off, the people who have Alzheimer's and dementia could possibly choke on it, and that would be very bad if that happens. So we want to make sure these fidgets are sewn on very strongly and secure, so then they do not rip off and become a health hazard. The same thing goes for the ropes on the fidget blanket. You need to sew over them multiple times and make sure they are secure so that they do not get ripped off as well. Now on to the hand sewing part. And for this part, we are demonstrating with one of the flowers. So what you want to do is you have your needle and thread and you go through one side and then the other. And then you go through the back the same way you did in the front. But you don't want to go through the front the same side because then it's going to get tangled into the fabric and it will make a mess. And you are going to do this multiple times to make sure the fidget is secure on the blanket. So then it doesn't get ripped off and become a safety, health hazard, choke hazard, etc. Then once you are done hand sewing, you're going to want to tie the string together to make sure that the thread does not come out, and you want to do these actions as shown in the video. Okay, so now we have sewn majority of the blanket. And what you're gonna need to do is, so when you are sewing the blanket, you are gonna have to leave a pocket about a good decent size to where you can flip this inside out. So I would recommend around the size. I don't have an estimated measurement, but this wide, because if it's any smaller, it would not flip, and I would not go as far as about here. So about this length, this is far, because if it's too long, then it'll flip, but then it's just going to be annoying to sew back. But now what we need to do now is flip this inside out. There. Okay, so now we need to flip this inside out, sort of like a pillow type deal. So it takes a second. Gotta be very gentle with it. And as we fold it out, we are going to need to pull the corners through to make sure that they're rounded and not missing half the fabric. So you're just gonna like poke the corners through the thing as well, and now this is not the finished product, but this is what we have, and now we are going to need to sew this shut, which I will demonstrate how to do so. I will show you how to fold it real quick to make it look non-messy and where you can pretty much not see the line as much depending what color thread you're using. You're going to want to fold it like this to like tuck in the edges, and then you're going to go over here and simply
hold on, go.
You're going to want to sew this down. Are you pushing? And you're going to want to slowly sew. Oh goodness. Okay, so we got past the technical difficulties, but so you're going to want to carefully sew this down. Until it's fully set. Then, like I said before, back press. And then you're going to want to go forward again. And there you go. This is our final fidget blanket. And I hope you liked the video, and I hope it is very informationful. And I hope your fidget blanket turns out successful, and you can donate it to a memory care unit in your area or to a family member or a loved one. Thanks for watching.